Welcome back to another deep dive. Usually when we sit down at these microphones, we're looking forward. We're unpacking the latest in AI, the big shift to sustainable energy, the digitalization of everything. We're always trying to track where the world is headed.
Right. We're looking for that signal, that little thread that points to the future.
But today
Yeah.
feels different. I've been going through this whole stack of material you sent me, the articles, the spec sheets, all the engineering briefs, and I just can't shake this feeling that we're not looking at the future. Not at all. We're looking at a glitch.
A glitch. That's a really interesting way to frame
It
it.
feels like a glitch in the Matrix, right? We're in a world that is just sprinting towards silence. You have governments mandating EVs. Car makers are downsizing engines to hit these insane efficiency standards. Everything is getting quieter, smoother, more computerized.
Right.
And then, right in the middle of all of that, General Motors, of all companies, decides to drop what is basically a nuclear bomb on the whole conversation.
It is a very loud, a very aggressive contradiction to the whole zeitgeist, isn't it? I mean, you look at the automotive world right now, and all the headlines are about battery range and charging grids and emissions.
Exactly.
And then Chevrolet just kicks the door in and says, we're not quite done with gasoline yet. In fact, we're just getting started.
Oh, they are definitely not done. There's a line in the launch notes that I absolutely love. It says, this car's mission is to go out screaming. It just sets the scene perfectly. This is not a quiet fade to black for the internal combustion engine. This is a rage against the dying of the light.
But we have to be careful not to mistake that rage for just, messiness. The mission of this deep dive isn't just to sit here and gawk at a fast car.
Right.
We need to unpack how a domestic manufacturer, Chevrolet, the brand that makes, pickup trucks and family SUVs, how they built a machine that doesn't just compete with European royalty, but actually terrifies it.
It's the ultimate underdog story, except the underdog showed up with a bazooka.
A carbon fiber bazooka, maybe? But yes, the goal here is to really understand the engineering without apology. This is a study in pushing the internal combustion engine, the ICE, to its absolute physical peak before that era, maybe fades away.
It's the final exam.
It is. It's what happens when you take a century of knowledge about gas engines and just wring it out for every last drop of performance.
And the numbers. Oh, man. The numbers we have to get to they're frankly absurd. I don't want to give it all away in the first minute, but you read the spec sheet for this car, and you have to, double check that it isn't a typo.
It does read a bit like science fiction, or maybe more accurately, like a drag racer's wish list that a major corporation accidentally brought to life.
So, okay, the tone for today is set.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely buzzing about the brute force of this thing. The noise, the speed, the sheer intimidation factor.
And I'm right there with you, but I want to make sure we focus on the controlled violence. Because you can't just throw this much power at a car and expect it to work.
It would just tear itself apart.
Instantly. The precision that's required to make this all hold together, that's what makes it a declaration of engineering, not just another muscle car.
Okay, let's do it. Let's unpack this thing. Let's get right into the heart of the beast. We have to start with the headline number, the number that's just plastered all over the automotive world right now.
The number that defines this car.
1,064 horsepower.
Just let that sit for a second.
1,064.
It's a staggering figure.
It's not just staggering, it's historical. And the source material really makes a point to confront this number head on. It says this figure doesn't exist by accident. The engineers at Chevrolet just flat out refuse to compromise.
And to put that into context, because, 1,000 horsepower has become sort of a buzzword now with electric hypercars.
Right. Everyone's got one.
We need to look at what this means for a pure combustion engine. Do you remember the Bugatti Veyron?
The Veyron, of course. That was the benchmark. That car was like the moon landing when it came out.
Yeah. It absolutely was. And to get its 1,001 horsepower, Bugatti needed a W16 engine. I mean, it was basically 2 V8s welded together and 4 turbochargers. It needed 10 radiators just to keep from melting itself into the pavement.
And now we've got a Corvette. A Corvette beating that number.
We have an American V8 surpassing that figure. And it also produces more raw horsepower than the Ferrari SF90 Street-Ale, which is really the benchmark for modern hybrid supercars.
And okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me. You just said hybrid with the Ferrari. The Corvette ZR1.
Zero electrification.
None. Wait, so no hybrid motors to fill in the torque gaps? No little battery assist?
No, nothing. Not a single electric motor hiding anywhere. This is that purity factor the sources keep emphasizing. The description is not diluted. Pure combustion, pure intent.
That is just, it's wild to me. In 2026, to release a car with 4-digit horsepower and for it to be purely mechanical, that doesn't feel like a product decision. It feels like a statement of defiance.
It's that engineering without apology again. But think about how much harder that is. When you have an electric motor, you get instant torque, right? It fills in all the gaps while the turbos are spooling up. It makes the car feel faster, smoother. To get to 1,064 horsepower without that crutch, I mean, you have to rely entirely on thermal efficiency, on airflow, on managing mechanical stress. It's infinitely harder to do this reliably with just gas.
So how did they do it? What is actually under the hood? Because I'm assuming they didn't just, find a magic spell for more horsepower.
This is where we meet the LT7.
The LT7, it
Yeah.
sounds like a secret military project.
It essentially is. The architecture is a 5.5-liter flat-plane crank V8. Now, if you follow the Corvette story, you know this engine comes from the Gemini bloodline.
Right, that's the same family as the engine in the Z06 from a couple of years ago. And I remember when the Z06 came out, everyone completely lost their minds because it didn't sound like a Corvette. It sounded like a Ferrari 458 or something, a proper race car.
Exactly. And that all comes down to the crankshaft. See, a traditional American V8 has a cross-plane crank. The pistons fire in this specific rhythm that gives you that heavy, burbling glug-glug-glug sound.
The sound of freedom, as they say.
Sure. But a cross-plane crank needs these really heavy counterweights to keep it balanced, and that weight limits how fast the engine can rev. The LT7 uses a flat-plane crank. It's lighter, and the firing order alternates perfectly between the cylinder banks.
Oh, it reads better.
Much, much better. It doesn't glug, it screams.
The source material describes the sound of this new ZR1 as American thunder blended with exotic rage.
That's poetic, but it's pretty accurate. And because of that flat plane architecture, this engine has an 8,000 RPM redline.
8,000 RPM. For a turbocharged V8, that's unheard of.
It's incredibly rare. Usually when you add turbos, you lose that high revving character because the turbos act like corks in the exhaust system. They restrict the flow. But somehow the LT7 manages to keep that high-strung race car feel while adding forced induction.
Okay, speaking of the forced induction, let's talk about the turbos. The source mentions twin massive mono-scroll turbochargers.
And massive is the key word there.
But I've heard people ask this, and it seems like a logical question. Why didn't they just take the Z06 engine, the LT6, and just bolt these turbos onto it? Slap some boost on and call it a day. Why go through the trouble of a whole new engine code?
Because if they had done that, you would have a very, very expensive pile of molten metal in about 30 seconds.
It would just melt.
It would effectively self-destruct. You have to understand compression ratios. The Z06 engine is naturally aspirated, right? It breathes on its own, so it has a very high compression ratio. It squeezes the air and fuel really, really tightly before ignition. That creates a lot of heat and pressure, and that equals power.
Okay, that makes sense.
Now, if you take that already super pressurized chamber and then use a turbo to force even more air into it, the pressure just becomes insane. The fuel would ignite before the spark plug even fires. That's called detonation or knock.
Right.
It would melt the pistons. It would snap the connecting rods. It would be a catastrophe.
So this is a total rebuild from the ground up.
Completely. The sources go into detail on the engineering changes. They had to design entirely new combustion chambers with lower compression just to accept the boost. They needed specialized reinforced pistons just to handle the insane cylinder pressures. The entire intake system had to be redesigned.
So it's not just about making the power, it's about surviving it.
That is the controlled violence we were talking about. This is an engine that was engineered from day one to survive extreme heat and extreme expectations. It's a 5.5-liter pressure cooker. To get over 1,000 horsepower out of that displacement, I mean, that engine is living on the absolute razor's edge of physics.
Wow. It really drives home the point that this isn't just some parts bin special. They didn't just grab a truck engine and put a blower on it. This is bespoke.
It is. It's a dedicated machine. And that dedication, that obsession with managing heat and power actually leads us directly into the design of the car. Because when you have an engine that one source calls a 1,000 horsepower furnace,
yeah.
You can't just style the car to look pretty. The design has to work.
And this brings us to one of the absolute coolest visual hooks of the ZR1. If you're listening to this, I want you to just picture the back of the car for a second. Unless you're driving, please don't close your eyes if you're driving, but just visualize the rear window. There's a spine running right down the middle of it.
A very controversial, very famous spine.
The return of the split window.
It's a legendary feature in the car world.
For those who might not be deep into Corvette lore, can you explain why the split window is such a big deal? I mean, why does it matter if there's a bar in the rear window?
We have to go all the way back to 1963, the Corvette Stingray. That car is a design icon, just beautiful, and it had this gorgeous tapering rear end with a spine that ran right through the rear glass, splitting the view in two. It looked incredible. If you see a 63 at a car show today, it's the one with the biggest crowd around it. Guaranteed. It looked incredible, but it caused what the source material calls a civil war inside the GM design studios.
A civil war? Seriously?
Yes. On one side, you had Bill Mitchell, the head of design, the artist. He loved the look. He thought it was the literal spine of the Stingray. But on the other side, you had Zora Arkus Duntov, the father of the Corvette, the engineer, and he hated it.
Why did he hate it so much?
Because you couldn't see out of the back. It created this huge blind spot right down the middle of your rearview mirror. Zora was obsessed with performance, with usability. He thought it was dangerous. Unnecessary vanity.
Form over function.
Exactly. And the engineers eventually won that battle. The split window only lasted for 1 year, 1963. They got rid of it in 64.
So for over 60 years, the split window has been this symbol of design versus engineering.
Exactly. It was a purely stylistic choice that actually compromised the car's function.
But now, it's back.
Ooh.
On the 2026 ZR1. So I have to play the skeptic here. Is this just, retro cosplay?
Yeah.
Is Chevy just playing the nostalgia card to sell cars to people who remember the original?
And that is the brilliant part. The source material clarifies that this is heritage reborn, but with a job to do. It is not just nostalgia.
So Zora, the guy who hated the original one, he would actually like this one.
Oh, I think he would love it because remember the problem we talked about with the ZR1 engine? Heat. It's a furnace. You have this massive V8 with 2 giant turbos sitting right behind the driver's head. It's an inferno in there. You have to get that heat out.
The spine. The spine does that.
The split isn't just a piece of plastic blocking your view. It's a functional carbon fiber heat extractor. It's literally a series of vents. It takes all that superheated air from the engine bay and channels it up and out through that spine.
So it's basically a chimney.
It's a chimney. It creates a low-pressure zone that sucks the hot air out. So in 1963, the split window was a vanity project that hurt performance. In 2026, it's a thermal requirement that enables performance.
Wow. Talk about a redemption arc.
It really is. It's the perfect convergence of 60 years of history and modern aerodynamic necessity. It shows the car understands its past, but like the source says, it weaponizes it.
Weaponizes its history. I love that phrasing. It's like the car is saying, yeah, I might look a little like my grandfather, but I can run a 2-hour marathon.
Or maybe I look like my grandfather, but I'm an Olympic weightlifter.
Right. And that strength, that weaponized history, brings us to the fight. Because you don't build a 1,064 horsepower car just to drive to the grocery store. You build it to win.
And the battlefield has changed.
Oh, significantly. Usually when we talk about a new hot Corvette, we're comparing it to Mustangs. Maybe a Porsche 911 if we're feeling fancy.
The ZR1 is not chasing Mustangs. It is not even really chasing Porsches. The source material is very, very clear on this. The ZR1 is walking directly into the territory of Ferrari.
And not just any Ferrari. Not the entry-level ones. We're talking about the big dog.
The Ferrari SF90 Stradale.
That is a bold, bold move. So let's do the tail of the tape here. In the red corner, we've got the SF90. How do our sources describe it?
It's described as a technological masterpiece, a surgical instrument. It is the absolute pinnacle of modern engineering from Maranello. It has a twin-turbo V8, sure, but it's paired with 3 electric motors.
3.
2 on the front axle, 1 in the transmission. It creates this incredibly complex all-wheel drive system. It's basically a spaceship on wheels.
It's refined, it's elegant, it has the royal crest on the front, and it costs
north of $500,000, and often much, much more with options.
$500,000
Okay.
plus. And in the blue corner, wearing the Chevy bow tie,
The Corvette ZR1, described in the text as a carbon fiber sledgehammer.
I love that contrast, a surgical instrument versus a sledgehammer.
And the stats are where the sledgehammer really lands its blow. The ZR1 costs roughly $200,000. Now, that's a lot of money, don't get me wrong. But
Yes.
compared to the Ferrari,
It's a fraction of the price, less than half.
and for that price, you get more horsepower than the Ferrari. You get a top speed beyond 215 miles per hour, and you do it with 0 electric motors.
That value proposition is just, it's almost nonsensical. You're getting true hypercar performance for supercar money, actually for less than supercar money in some cases.
It's a disruptive price point.
But wait a second, you said the Ferrari has electric motors on the front axle, so it's all-wheel drive.
That's right.
And the Corvette is. It's still rear-wheel drive.
Correct.
So 1,064 horsepower going only to the rear wheels. Isn't that isn't that terrifying?
It is absolutely terrifying. But that brings us to the philosophical clash here. This isn't just about which car is a tenth of a second faster around a track, though that's going to be fascinating to watch. This is about two completely different ways of looking at performance.
Okay, break that down for us. What are the two philosophies?
The Ferrari represents the future of integration. It's about using computers and batteries and motors to smooth out all the rough edges, to make insane speed feel accessible and precise. It's a scalpel, it's clean, the car actively helps you drive it fast.
And the Corvette?
The Corvette is about, as the source says, grit, physics, and boost. It's raw. It is unapologetically aggressive. It says, we don't need the batteries to go fast. We just need better engineering on the combustion side. It demands more from the driver. It's a sledgehammer.
It's the blue-collar hero breaking into the country club and flipping over the banquet table.
Precisely. And the text notes that the victory here isn't just about the raw speed. It's the fact that a Chevrolet is standing shoulder to shoulder with the world's most exclusive, expensive machines, and it is doing it unapologetically.
That's the key word, isn't it? Unapologetically. It's not trying to be a Ferrari. It's trying to be the ultimate Corvette.
It forces a debate where there used to be none. You know, 5 or 10 years ago, if you said a Corvette was faster than the top-tier Ferrari, people would have laughed. They would have said, oh, that's cute. It's fast in a straight line, maybe.
Nobody's laughing at 1,064 horsepower.
No, you do not laugh at that. You fear it.
And that is victory in itself. The source puts it perfectly. You don't need a royal crest to sit at the table of the gods. Just grit, physics, and boost.
It sort of democratizes that level of speed. I mean, obviously, $200,000 isn't cheap by any measure, but in the world of vehicles that can do over 215 miles per hour, it's a bargain.
So let's bring it all home. What does this all mean? Why does this matter to us or to you, the listener, who might be driving a Honda Civic or a pickup truck right now? Why should you care about a car you'll probably never even sit in?
That's the so what of this whole deep dive, right? Why should you care?
There's that great quote from the sources again. The age of the internal combustion engine does not fade quietly. It goes out screaming.
That is the crux of it. The ZR1 is proof.
Proof of what?
It's proof that engineering passion still matters. I mean, we live in an era where cars are becoming appliances. They're becoming software platforms on wheels. They're quiet, efficient, and a little bit sterile.
And the ZR1 is the exact opposite of sterile.
It's biological. It breathes, it burns, it screams. It's proof that insane performance doesn't need permission from a battery pack. It's proof that mechanical insanity can still be done, and done right.
It's almost like a piece of art. A kinetic sculpture powered by controlled explosions.
It is, and whether you prefer the elegance of a European car or the brute force of American muscle, you have to respect the sheer audacity of this thing. The expert perspective here is that we should all be happy this car exists.
Even if we never get to drive it.
Especially if we never drive it. Just knowing it's out there, it keeps the spirit of driving alive. It represents the absolute peak of a specific type of human technology. We've spent over 100 years perfecting the internal combustion engine, the ZR1. It feels like the graduation ceremony for that entire technology.
It's a statement against the silence of the future. It roars about the present. I really like that thought. It anchors us right here in the now.
And it reminds us that humans can still build things that are simply awesome, in the literal original sense of that word, awe-inspiring.
So to wrap this all up, let's just quickly recap what we're dealing with here.
Okay, we've got the LT7 engine, a mind-bending 1,064 horsepower, purely combustion.
We have the return of the legendary split window, turning a 1963 design flaw into a 2026 aerodynamic necessity.
We've got the status of the hypercar killer taking on the Ferrari SF90 for a fraction of the price.
At a price point that just defies all logic and proves you don't need to be royalty to go really, really fast.
It's the American dream machine, just amplified to the absolute max.
Before we go, I want to leave you with one final thought, something to mull over. We've talked about this being a declaration, a peak.
And this is where it gets really interesting to speculate about the future.
If this really is the final chapter for pure, unassisted internal combustion supercars, have we just witnessed the absolute peak?
It's a valid question. The regulations are tightening everywhere. The technology is all shifting toward electrification.
Is it possible that we will never, ever see a mechanical machine this raw, this powerful, and this unassisted ever again? Are we looking at the T-Rex right before the meteor hits?
If we are, what a magnificent dinosaur it is.
It's the American dream machine, and it intends to go out screaming. Thanks for listening to this deep dive. We'll see you next time.